Hello world, welcome to my pattern drafting channel where I will show you how I draft different patterns using base, patterns, and images. Here is a vintage dress pattern with some bust darts and a high-waisted paneled skirt. So here's my base pattern. I've set up guides at 5, 4, 4, and 3 inches so that I can do this basic guideline to show me where I'm going to cut apart my bodice pattern. I'm not connecting these to anything. These are just so that I can figure out where I want to cut pieces. And so I like to keep those lined up. I'm going to remove these guidelines because they get in my way. And now if you look, this is a very short sleeve. This is the elbow dart, but the sleeve is shorter than that. So I'm going to use a box at 3 inches to mark my guide. And then I'm going to add anchor points here and there, and then cut them here and there, and then remove the bottom half of the pattern. We don't need it. Sometimes when you try to redraw a pattern, it doesn't like it if it's on a guide. So move it. And now, solid sleeve pattern. Cool. All right, back to my bodice. I'm going to remove this guide because it's in my way, adding anchor points along the line that I drew before on my bodice pattern, and now cutting those apart at each anchor point. I'm going to remove this line so that it's out of my face. This one actually cut, so I'm going to slide that down and match it up there. This one did not, so I'm going to recut it and then match it up to the inside dart leg, dart point, whatever. And if I reconnect all these pieces, that's the basic front bodice pattern. And now I'm reconnecting those. And I will blend all of these together so that these are smoother pattern pieces. So what I'm doing here is making sure that the dart legs are the same length. What you can't see is that I was using document info, but it's unnecessary at this point because you can just copy the line and then don't edit the line itself. Move it, mark it up with that point that's there, and then rotate it. And that's how you can easily figure out how much you need to change your lines. This one's hard to see, so what I'm showing here is that it's real easy. Again, using your selection tool, move it, make it pink so you can see it, or make it whatever color you feel like so you can see it, rotate it, and editing your points, remove the pink line, and then join these two here, and now you've got a solid shape. All right, so now she's got a fun collar, and I like a shawl collar, so I think I'm going to do that. So we're going to do 3 inches down from the neckline is my collar break point. Put a guide there, move the box. I'm going to add an anchor point there, and then up here, just sort of to get the shape of a shawl collar. And now I got to figure out the length of the back neck, which is about 3 inches. So I'm going to draw a box about 3 inches, line it up to my shoulder corner. I guess that's a high point of shoulder. Rotate, and that's now the length of the back pattern. So that point matches up to there. I'm going to change this curve and then edit that curve to be a little wider just because it looks nicer that way. And now I'm going to delete the lines and these extra points of this box that I had before. And now this line becomes the back neck pattern. I'm going to close that there. And then on my bodice pattern, I am going to add an anchor point and then cut it, cut my high point of neck, gone, remove my guideline, join, join, and then I'm going to fix this line because I don't like it so much. So I'm just using my handles and on my anchor point, and it's pretty good. All right, now to do the same to the back, adding anchor points, and then cutting my anchor points, removing my guideline, and now I'm matching these up to their dart points on the skirt. I'm matching up each of the points that creates an overlap for each pattern, and that way if it's better. Again, I'm going to have to get rid of the guideline here because for some reason it doesn't like to close a shape when there's a guideline on it. Don't know why. Closing this shape. I'm going to leave the shoulder dart. And now I got to figure out again if my dart legs are the same length. And so blending that line there, same thing as before, matching it up with the dart point there, make it blue so I can see it. And that rotates in the middle. We're going to rotate it from here over there. And then editing that dart point so that it matches there. So again, not the end all be all, but it's a pretty easy way to make sure that your lines are trued. I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to split the diff, adding a point there, and removing those, using my direct select to remove those, joining those anchor points. Watch, I can do that again, add a point, remove those lines, remove that point, join those two, and now they're solid again. Now I want to make sure that these side lines match, and they don't. Front side is a little longer than the back side, which is fine. So I am going to, again, do the thing, curve it, change it pink so I can see it, and then use my direct select to edit that anchor point, and then get rid of my pink line again. Now I'm going to move this just so that it matches, and then get rid of these. And again, joining these anchor points. This will make a solid shape that I could fill with color if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. Again, same idea. Okay, solid skirt shapes. And now you could make a high-waisted pencil skirt from this. However, this is a very flared skirt, so we're going to cut our patterns apart. My favorite option, add anchor points, use the cut tool. Somehow I cut the guide, which is weird, but I'll just remove it completely so that it's out of my way. Cutting the anchor points. And see, that one wasn't quite connected, so I'll go back, direct select, join, direct select, join, just for good measure. And now I move them apart. Same thing here, cut, cut, move. Now all my patterns are disconnected. I'm going to add lines to close up these shapes. And now we've got a 4-paneled high-waisted skirt. However, I want to make it a super flare, so I'm going to draw a circle that is just about the circumference of my waist. There it is. And then I'm going to take each point of my waistline and match it up to the curve of this circle. And then I'll overlap my waistline points and then just continue matching them up to the curve of this circle. Again. And this is not going to create a full circle, and it's not going to create even a full half circle, but that's okay. I'm just wanting to do this so I can get a good reference for the hemline shape. All right, we're going to move this out here so that we can see it better. I'm going to turn it green. I know it's faint, but you can get the idea. The biggest point now is that I'm going to need another skirt or another circle to finish the skirt that is the length from the waistline notch to the hemline. And the first time I drew this, my math was wrong. So I ended up with a skirt shape that was too small. So I lined it up to my original circle, and I'm going to edit the shape with Shift-Alt just to the bottom of my hem of my skirt line there. And now, direct select, I'm going to add flare from the bottom. So I'm just making these pieces wider, and you can see that the hemline does not match that curve. And I will fix that here in a minute. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to bring these to the side point of that circle. And then just add some flare here. This pattern is going to be huge, so we're going to change that later. And so now I want to get rid of my hip line, because you don't need that. Goodbye. And goodbye. Okay. Now I'm going to make sure that I like the amount of flare, add a little more, fill in some space. That second to last pattern is huge. Okay, so with Shift C, you can edit the curve. So I'm doing that just to match the circle that I have here and all of that. I don't like this pattern. It's too wide. Make it shorter. Make that one bigger, fill in space. Shift C again, and I can edit the shape. And so that's a pretty good way to get a nice smooth curve through the hemline of your skirt. If I draw it freehand, I usually have to cut apart a bunch of it. Okay, so now I'm lining up my waistline dots to this guideline here. Line up one, hit the R key for rotate, move your rotate point, and then rotate each piece so that they match this line. And now you can see where they were before. All right, there we go. So I like these lines here. They're a bit sharp. I'm going to leave the ones in the front because I want the front to fit a little closer. But there's a point at the back that doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to get rid of the hip point here. Goodbye. And now we just have very flared high-waisted skirt pieces. And now I'm adding a guideline and relining up my skirt front. Again, matching anchor point to guideline using my R tool. And if I zoom out, I can't always get it, so I zoom in, and now it is straight up and down again. I'm matching these up just so they look pretty close. This one I need to do the thing where I line up my anchor points, hit R, and rotate just a bit. Sometimes it doesn't like it, sometimes I just click off, click back on, R, and rotate. And then same thing for the back. I just want to make sure that these fit. So it looks like those will fit pretty well. So I'll move those down just so they're out of the way. And this is a little bit short for a dart. It's about 3/4 of an inch. So with my box, I'm going to just do an inch tall, line it up, rotate, find the dart point, and I'm just going to scoot the dart point up. That way it's just a little bit taller of a dart. Makes it a little easier to sew, a little more visible on the finished garment. And this is just to check to make sure my dart legs are close, and they are. They're pretty close. So get rid of those. And this is our basic pattern. So I'm going to remove these guidelines so you can see it a little better. This is about how I would do it. And so now I'm going to add seam allowance, object, path, offset, path, and I'm going to do 1/2 inch of seam allowance. And now each one has 1/2 inch, and I'm going to group those together. If you don't, the two pieces will move independently, and then things will get weird. For my front pattern, I like to cut it on the fold. So I'm going to remove a couple anchor points, starting with the bottom, get rid of that one. This one doesn't have one at the top, so I'm going to add one here and remove that corner, and now it's pretty smooth. So this is your basic pattern. Your front skirt is cut on fold, your front bodice is not cut on fold. Here I'm showing you that I don't like these extreme points, so I'm converting these anchor points to curves. This one has 2 points, so it gets a little weird. They will smooth out when you sew it, but I like to see it just in case. Trying to do it this one, I didn't like it, so I just undid it, left it how it is. And the back one also needed some more smooth curve. Get rid of this anchor point. And then object, path, offset path, 1/2 inch, grouping. And now we've got a basic pattern.